In this context, I want to highlight the recent adopted 19 EU sanctions package, which targets the energy sector, particularly liquefied natural gas, LNG. So, let me conclude by stressing that Moscow's weaponization of energy is not a just European problem. A destabilized world is not the Middle East interest. Therefore, a more coordinated approach among global energy players, many of whom are gathered here in Manama, is needed. We all understand the Middle East's leverage over global energy prices, so please keep in mind the less Russian earns from oil, the harder it becomes for Kremlin to sustain its war machine. Without security, there is no prosperity. Europe and the Middle East should build an energy partnership based on stability, investment and predictability. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
Minister Lipavsky, thank you very much for those remarks and for outlining the journey that the Czech Republic has been on to transform its energy mix. I think that call for partnership, will be picked up, I imagine, by many to see how we can make that a reality. Minister Brekelmans, over to you.
Thank you very much. You might wonder, why is the Minister of Defense talking about energy? And the answer is very simple. Because energy policy nowadays is security policy. I would even say that energy policy nowadays is defense policy. Because what we face in Europe, the biggest military threat is Russia. And Russia and Russia's war machine is fully funded by energy resources. What we also see is that the interdependence or the dependence on energy resources is used as a weapon, and it's used full-fledged as a way to put pressure on others. Same is true for the access to critical resources and to raw earth materials. It is not only an economic tool, it is a military and a security tool. I would like to mention three particular points. One is that we need to do much more work to integrate energy policy into our foreign affairs and our security policies. If you look where we stand today, the Russia threat that we face today, we ourselves in Europe, we funded this threat for years. And we always thought that if we keep trading and if we keep buying oil and gas from Russia, then it will never lead to war. And look where we are now. We even thought this after 2014, 2015. When Russia already invaded Ukraine and when a plane with 300 citizens, among which 200 Dutch citizens, was shot down. Even after that happened, we thought that we could re-establish relations with Russia by trading and buying their oil and gas. But it all turned out to be untrue, because you cannot deal with an aggressor, or by dealing with an aggressor, you cannot prevent war. We are currently, as the Netherlands, we are not in war with Russia, but we are also not living in peace. We are living in a gray zone in which hybrid tools like energy are used as a mechanism, are used as a tool for pressure. Look, for example, at the sanctions that we have put in place, but that are also circumvented by Russia in different ways. This means that in order to have an effective security policy and effective energy policy, we need to integrate all the tools that we have. Intelligence, cyber capabilities, diplomacy, energy policy, and also defense. Because it's in our shared interest to safeguard supply chains and also to safeguard maritime routes. And I'm of course, very positive, and we should give compliments to the combined maritime forces that are here in Bahrain. We can compliment Bahrain and also the United States for that. But the only way to effectively safeguard those maritime routes is by integrating all the tools and all the measures that we have. The second point that I would like to raise is the shadow fleet. Energy is militarized, and what we have seen over the last years, in order to avoid the sanctions that we put in place, a big shadow fleet for transporting oil has emerged. And we try to support Ukraine as much as we can. We also try to put pressure on Russia to come to the negotiation table by sanctioning Russia and by putting more economic pressure on Putin. But through the shadow fleet, not only is it undermining our efforts to get to a peaceful solution, it's also undermining the international rule of law that we all count on. It's also creating a lot of risks for the environment, because the ships of the Shadow Fleet are outdated, are unchecked, and are simply dangerous. We should coordinate much more our international efforts together with like-minded countries. We should strengthen our monitoring, our data sharing, our enforcement, and also exchange best practices when it comes to the Shadow Fleet. Third topic I would like to raise is maritime security and underwater infrastructure. Because if you look at the current global trade, 80% of goods are traded through maritime routes, and 95% of international data is going through subsea cables. And we do see that those lines of communication and critical underwater infrastructure is highly vulnerable. We have seen that there are Russian ships, for example, sabotaging this undersea infrastructure in the Baltic Sea. And what we do also face is not only that particular threat, but an accumulation of threats. In this region, piracy, armed robbery is still as much of a threat as it has been in the past. But now also the threat of undersea sabotage by state actors is coming on top of it. So this also means that we should strengthen our international coordination on this, that we should share intelligence, should share best practices, and that we should also help each other with technological innovation, because also in the commercial sector and in the scientific world, a lot of useful innovation is taking place all around the world that we can both use in order to strengthen our security and protect our vital infrastructure. So to sum up, I would like to call for action in 3 ways. First, we need to strengthen our situational awareness at sea. We should strengthen our surveillance capabilities, and we should exchange much more information and more best practice. Second, we should strengthen our resilience, and it means preventing sabotage from happening in the first place. But if those efforts are still taking place, we should be able to withstand it, and if our adversaries are effective, we should be able to recover from those disruptions. Third, we should strengthen our deterrence. On the one hand, that means strengthening our military capabilities. It also means investing in technological innovation, but it also means making sure that we have the right legal frameworks in place and that we bolster our law enforcement.